Greetings and welcome back to Carnivore Confidential. I'm Dougie the Butcher. Today I got a fun one for you. There's a regional dish on the east coast of Canada called a Donair that is really quite famous, and it's easy to make. It's a ground beef, and initially it was a ground beef and ground lamb dish. It was brought to the forefront, or brought to the Halifax region by a Greek restaurateur who initially tried to interest his customers in the classical Greek dish, the gyros. But apparently it wasn't well received, so he used basically the same meat and changed up the sauce. Instead of it being a tzatziki sauce with yogurt and garlic and cucumber, he changed it into a sweet garlic sauce using evaporated milk and vinegar, and it's become as I said, regionally famous on the east coast of Canada, in particular Halifax. And so much so that Halifax politicians, whether it was the mayor or town council or whatever, deemed it to be the official dish of Halifax or the east coast. I'm not sure which. But that's what we're going to do today. It's really, like I said, it's ground meat, really coarse, densely packed ground meat. And it's worked to the point that you have to emulsify the fat and activate the proteins, and it pretty much turns into a brick when you cook it off. Anyway, shout out to my buddy Jim Tsuros and his wife Tina, who have a Halifax Donair shop in Milton, Ontario on Main Street. If you haven't tried it, you really owe it to yourself. If you've ever stumbled out of a bar in Halifax at closing time, this is your go-to meal option. And today we're going to make it. So thanks for coming by, and Jimmy and Tina, this one's for you. All right, let's get after this. I'm pretty excited. For the recipe, I've got 3 pounds of meat. Now, traditionally this calls for ground beef. I believe originally the story was that the Greek restaurateur from Halifax that developed this recipe originally had lamb and beef together, but apparently the cost of lamb was cost prohibitive, so he took the lamb out of it and just became beef. So any recipe that you'll find online for Halifax Donairs, original Halifax Donairs, probably calls for just beef, but I happen to have some lamb, and I also happen to have some pork. So before any of the purists yell at me, it's just my recipe, my prerogative. This is what I'm doing. I'll show you how I'm doing it. Now for the meat, so I've got a pound of beef, I've got a pound of pork, and I've got a pound of lamb. I'm going to go in the stand mixer, and what we really want to do is we want to incorporate the proteins and really activate the proteins so they become really sticky. It comes almost a toothpaste looking mess, but more importantly, we want to emulsify the fats. It needs to be very pure, very clean, very smooth. So if it tends to get too sticky in your bowl, you can always add a little bit of water just to loosen it up a little bit. But here we go. Here's the recipe. I've got, as I said, 3 pounds of ground meat. I got a 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs, Italian breadcrumbs. I know it varies from recipe to recipe whether or not they put breadcrumbs in. I believe it's just for a binder, but a lot of recipes I've found doesn't have that. But I'm going to use it today to see how it comes out. We've also got a tablespoon of black pepper. We've got a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon and a half of cayenne, 2 teaspoons of oregano, 3 teaspoons of paprika, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic, and a half a teaspoon of salt, all in there. All right, so I know I keep saying that, but I've got some Spanish friends that remind me that queso is cheese, not queso. Also, I wanted to let you know that we're going to start off with this paddle, and probably go to this paddle because it scrapes the sides. So just to incorporate everything, we're going to do this. Get my stand mixer going. Shouldn't really call it my stand mixer. I gave this baby to my wife for Christmas. In goes the ground beef. In goes a beautiful ground lamb. Got a piece of paper on it. There we go. And in goes our fresh ground pork. Make sure there's no soaker pad on the back. All right, I'm going to incorporate this first, get things rolling here. Before I start adding some of the dry ingredients. I want to get this incorporated. I'm going to add the spices first before the breadcrumbs. There goes the oregano. Here comes the cayenne. Hold please. Oregano, yeah. Here goes the paprika. And the salt, garlic, and onion powder. And last but not least, the breadcrumbs. Now again, we want to mix this. We want to mix this for about 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes or so. So we'll just fast forward through this. You can smell it, can't you, baby? You can smell it, can't you? You need to go slow enough that you don't spin the meat right out of the bowl. So any faster than what I was doing, the meat starts flying out of the bowl, and that's kind of a waste. Here we go again. I forgot to mention, we're going to be baking this in the oven. I've got a water bath set up here, but I've got a loaf pan lined with parchment paper, and this is going to be full of water, 300 degrees for 2 or 2.5 hours. So that's the next step. Gonna add a little bit of water. 1 cup to be exact. Remember, what we're trying to achieve here is like a really, really fine pate, almost. And then we're gonna force it into a loaf pan and bake it off. Smells good. All right, as you can see, I didn't really time that, but I'm going to call it 5 minutes for argument's sake. And we'll just take this off our paddle. Okay. So we're ready. We're ready to put it in a loaf pan. So we want to squeeze all the air out of it once we get it in here, and that's just the best way to do that is probably just with your hands. It came out of there pretty neat. And like I said, we're just going to squeeze this in with our hands. Don't want any air bubbles in it, because when we slice it, well, obviously we don't want any air bubbles in it. And we want this to be really, really dense. That's why we processed it in the stand mixer for as long as we did. It needs to be really, really dense. Not like a light meatloaf you might have for Sunday dinner. This is going to be entirely different. It's going to be a brick of Halifax Donair meat. Forgive me for 1 second. All right, so it's ready for the oven. The oven's on and it's hot. So we're gonna, I'm going to put this in a water bath. Of course, it's always best if you start with warm water, because otherwise if you put cold water in your stove, that is going to lengthen the length of time it takes to cook this. So since I put in lukewarm water, I'm going to stick this in the oven for a bit to warm up, and then add the loaf pan to it. So there we go. I'm going to set for 2.5 hours. I'm going to set for 2.5 hours and start. All right, so Halifax Donair sauce, as unique to the Donair as the Donair itself. The sauce is an accompaniment that gives it that 1-2 punch. Unlike Heroes, it's not a garlic. It is a garlicky sauce, but it's not a tangy sauce, like the tzatziki makes it tangy. This is a sweet sauce because of the evaporated milk, and then you get the tang from the vinegar and a little hit of the garlic. Now I don't have any garlic powder, so I'm gonna use fresh garlic, but same difference, same horse, different jockey. Let's get a bowl. Forgot my bowl, never ready. Anyway, sweetened condensed milk, 1 can. And I'm going to use a fresh spatula because the other one has meat on it. Keep stepping on my microphone. I'm going to check it to make sure I'm still plugged in, and I am. All right. Like I said, sweet condensed milk. Sweetened condensed milk. 1/4 cup of vinegar. Now you really should add this, incorporate this slowly, because if you add it too quickly, it will curdle the milk. So we just add this as in increments, and also you can sort of check the consistency and give it a taste test as you go. And traditionally, the other thing that goes on a donair, the 2 other things that go on a donair, are chopped tomatoes and chopped onions. And I've yet to do that, but I don't need to bore you and show you how to chop an onion. Oops, oops. A little bit more vinegar. More vinegar, please. I've seen other recipes for this sauce that call for evaporated milk as well as a lot of sugar. But this has a lot of sugar in it as it is, so I chose this recipe because it didn't have the additional sugar, not that it's a full-on diet meal, which it is not. And let's get some crushed garlic in there. I know it looks like a lot, but hey, I like garlic and it's my recipe. Oh my God, you guys, that's the sauce. That is the sauce. Makes my mouth water. Anyway, all right. So, come on back. I'll have this place all cleaned up, and we'll finish this off. Stay hungry, you guys. You're going to really dig this. All right, here we are. Meat brick out of the oven. 2.5 hours at 300 degrees in the oven. That donair meat that I made, the lamb, the beef, and the pork, all incorporated, mashed together into a really, really dense brick to activate the proteins and emulsify the fats. What we have left is it just came out. I'm sorry, I've got my dinner going on in the background here, so I apologize, but I wanted to bring you in on bringing this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of this pan that I've got. It's a water bath. I'm going to take it out of this pan. I'm going to pat it dry. I'm going to bag it and put it in the fridge because you don't want to cut this tonight, folks. Tomorrow, this will be really, really, really firm and easy to slice thinly. But come on back for that. I can't wait. Jimmy Tsuros, my buddy from Milton at Halifax Donair. Big shout out. Doing you proud, but I hope I'm doing you proud, buddy. Stay hungry. We're going to slice it nice and thin by hand, and here we go. And we're also going to give it a taste test right now. Oh yeah, that's it. But I'm going to slice up enough of this for a couple of donairs for my wife and I for dinner. And then I'm going to give you a big old taste test. And we'll button this up. All right, so I've sliced it up. I've got my condiments ready to go. I've got my pitas. Very, very important that you buy the pocket pita or a Greek pita. You can either, trim the edge off of this and open it up and stuff your pitas, or you can wrap them like I'm going to do tonight. But what you really want to do is you want to steam them. And I've got a pot of boiling water here, and you're going to have to forgive me for my makeshift deal here, but just get a grate. And we're going to boil the water and put the pitas over here, steam them up, get them nice and soft. But in the meantime, I've got a hot pan, a bunch of meat, and we're going to saute this stuff up. Get it warm. And then we're going to assemble our Donair. Not a hero. The meat is very similar, like I said. But this is a uniquely Canadian concoction. And what makes it uniquely Canadian is there isn't supposed to be lamb in it, but I put lamb in mine because I like the taste of lamb. But what makes it uniquely Canadian is this sweet garlic sauce. And the sweetness, obviously, as I said, when I showed you yesterday when I made it, it comes from the evaporated milk. And you jack that up with some vinegar to tone down the sweetness. Add some garlic to give it a bit of a zip. Fresh cut onions. I don't use cooking onions. This is a sweet Vidalia, or you could use a Spanish onion, which is also sweet. It doesn't have the heat that a cooking onion does or a yellow onion does. And then, of course, we just got tomatoes. And that rounds out the dish. So come on back. I'm going to show you how to finish this off. All right, we're at the assembly stage. Pardon me. Sliced the meat, warmed it up in a pan. Got my pita steaming. Forgive the prehistoric steam issue that I've got, but hey, whatever works for you, right? We just want to steam the pita, get it nice and soft. Both sides, beautiful. And then we're going to assemble it, which is really pretty basic. Just going to add some tomatoes, onions, garlic sauce, meat, of course. And that is the Halifax Donair. Uniquely Canadian, pretty much like back bacon. You may find it elsewhere in the world, but if you've ever stumbled out of a bar in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, the first place you're going to go, or the first place you want to be, or the first thing you want to eat is one of these bad boys. Special shout out to my buddy Jimmy Tsuros and his lovely wife Tina, who have a Halifax Donair shop, specifically Halifax Donair shop in Milton, Ontario, Canada. If you're anywhere within my local postal code geographic area, you really need to go and check him out. His brother-in-law also, his name is Troy, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong, Troy. He has a Halifax Donair shop on Fairview Road in Burlington. Check them both out. I've shown you how to do it at home, but he does it so much better in his shop. And for $8, you can't beat a big fat Donair about that big dripping down your sleeves, and that's so good. Anyway, so let's plate this up, get this going. Ooh, that's hot. Now, typically, my buddy Jimmy puts sauce on the bottom and sauce on the top. As much as I like this sauce, I don't like that much of it, so I'm just going to put it on the bottom. I'm going to layer my meat in here. Layer my delicious homemade Donair beef, lamb, and pork. And I know the purists are going to yell at me, but anyway, that's what I did. And then we're going to have some tomatoes. Very traditional. Onions, of course, lots of them. And I'm going to go against what I just said about having sauce only on the bottom. I'm going to add sauce, a little bit of sauce on the top too. I thought these folks, these things are hard to eat. I'm not going to lie to you. They're hard to eat. It's not like a burrito where you can roll up one end and bite on it and it doesn't bust out the other end. These things are hard to eat. But man, oh man, my mouth is watering. I've been thinking about this all day. And here we go. I'm about to share, if I can get it up to my face. Oh my God. I know a lot of people would probably think it's pretty brutal that you're eating in front of your in front of your audience. I call it chef's privilege. Oh. Jimmy and Tina. Not sure if I nailed your meat recipe, but I did nail your sauce. That's it for today, you guys. Carnivores, please stay hungry. Please come back next Thursday for another video. I'm Dougie the Butcher. I'm trying to spread the love. This is a huge favorite of mine. Come on back next Thursday for another upload. 6 o'clock is when I desperately try to do what I do every Thursday for 6 o'clock. So thanks very much for coming by. From my house to yours, stay hungry, folks. Cheers.